Judge, oh judge, to have gained so much and to fall so soon. What's up, guys? I'm Hunter, and here we are to talk about whether or not Higuruma, the Judge of Fate from Jujutsu Kaisen, deserved more than he got within the run of the narrative itself, and whether or not he deserves to maybe even still be alive. But let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. And fun fact, I do happen to have it on me. And have it on me? Have it on me? What does that even mean? Is have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And a fun fact, Hiromi is most likely cooked. Like, I'm 99.999% he's cooked. Like, 247 very clearly shows the man cleaved to everything. Like, obviously we get the callback to Nanami before Nanami got dropped, and of course, you know, the whole thing of him talking about post-mortem curse energy and stuff like this, stuff like that. So Hiromi is pretty much cooked. Like, it's not necessarily off screen we see him get slashed to pieces, but I've seen a lot of people say, oh no, Higuruma's still alive, and yada 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 and yada yada yada. So with that being the case, the question now arises. Considering Hiromi is about 99.9% cooked, did he deserve more? Obviously, with Gege and Jujutsu Kaisen as a whole, there are many characters who, whether alive or not alive, tend to kind of have a lot of discussions on them on whether or not they deserve more, whether they have wasted potential, this, that, or the other. Of course, you have characters who have perished, like Yuki Sakuma, who everyone believes should have gotten more. You have characters like Hana, who is still very much alive, along with the angel that possesses them, or coexist with them, but many people believe they have wasted potential. But the question for Hiromi is that, does he deserve more for the character he was established to be within the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, or ultimately is his end in 247 appropriate for everything the character has earned up to this point, and adding anything more would be a bit too much for the relative weight he has in the narrative? And this is an interesting discussion because there are two angles to tackle it by. There's angle number one. This man was hyped up to be the next Satoru Gojo, have talent rivaling him. At the age of 36, while only being 2 months old as a sorcerer, he's being compared to the likes of Ryomen Sukuna in terms of talent and ability, and Gojo Satoru in terms of raw potential. But then there's the other side, where Hiromi is a character who's existed for less than 100 chapters. Hiromi is a character who has completely served their role. Hiromi is a character who, in terms of narrative weight, realistically, did not deserve to even graze Sukuna. And it's actually impressive he even got him to remove a hand and make him shiggle and wiggle a little bit. So, let's talk about it. For the side of Higuruma deserves more, I do think it would be interesting to see more of his potential. That's what a lot of people are mainly there for. The thing about potential is that you can always keep on digging and digging and digging. And considering what Higuruma was able to unlock so quickly at that lightning speed, such as domain amplification, high complex domain amplification, RCT of entire limbs right on the fly, the ability to reverse engineer his own curse technique outside of his domain expansion, the ability to wield tools and implements from his domain expansion outside of that, and even be able to manipulate his own ability on the fly in order to re-include Yuji Todori and bring up a very specific penalty that was existed for Ryomen Sukuna. All of this while 2 months old. Well, admittedly, I think it's kind of no, because November 1st, because the Culling game started October 31st, kind of? But even then, I kind of think, yeah, because Kenjaku awoke everyone on October 31st. Higuruma, seemingly enough, was in the midst of a trial when that was happening. The same trial on October 31st. Kenjaku awakened him. He got Judgment. We are now currently fighting December 24th, I do believe. So he's been a sorcerer for less than 60 days. And don't get me wrong, we've had prodigies. We've had prodigies of prodigies, prodigies around prodigies. Yuji Todori, despite how many times he gets beat down and abused, is quite a prodigy in of himself, going from a admittedly super strong regular civilian to a monster in the course of around less than a year, I do believe. You have Fushiguro constantly touted for his high level potential, of course only becoming the vessel for the King of Curses, but still, his potential was absolutely wild, absolutely insane. It was quite girthy, if you will. Yuta Okotsu is pretty much potential man, the character that isn't named Satoru Gojo, considering how much juice that man got over the course of 4 chapters. Admittedly 4 kind of long chapters, and admittedly over the course of like a year, and then a little bit more of a year after that, considering the time skip for him. But still, for a man to go from actual regular civilian attached to a super powerful curse to literally the second strongest sorcerer in the matter of maybe a year and a half is still very, very impressive. And the thing with at least two of those characters is that we still can keep digging for the most part. Yuta Okkotsu has potential that is still untapped with his copy ability that we can keep digging and growing for. Yuji Itadori, despite currently having a whole chunk of him torn out and obviously barely doing anything against the King of Curses, still has more potential to be dug in and brought out. We still don't know everything about Yuji Itadori. We still don't know everything about Yuta Okkotsu and his current abilities. We still don't know anything else or everything else about those two, and thusly the potential has more merit to be continuously explored, as, well, there's still more to go. But my thing with Higuruma in terms of his potential, and why I think ultimately capping him here is kind of fine, even in spite of his potential, is that what else would he have left to unlock? We kind of got everything out of him. Because realize, unlike Copy, unlike Yuji Itadori's mysterious possible curse technique, possible curse tool, possible new abilities, possible blood manipulation, and Yuta Okkotsu, once again, with his endless copy ability, Higuruma has shown us deadly sentencing. He's shown us the peak of deadly sentencing in the Executioner's Blade. He's shown us RCT. He's shown us domain amplification. Heck, he doesn't need symbol domain, but he most likely could pull that off too. We've seen pretty much everything that Higuruma can apply and offer as a sorcerer on a generic level. Deadly sentencing, deadly sentencing in of itself has limits. Limits that most likely could not be expressed. Of course, if you or I were Gegaku Tami, we could definitely continue to expand on the technique. We could add a reverse curse technique variation of it. We could see what happens if Higuruma goes for a retrial on top of a retrial based on what he got from Sukuna before and trying to go for Sukuna again. We could see Higuruma end up evolving even further and hitting a black flash and going a further awakening on top of that. But once again, as great as all that could be, not only does it not necessarily need to be done, not only is it vague enough considering Higuruma's own lack of understanding with his curse technique, but also I think it's just giving him a little bit too much. One of the biggest reasons that a lot of people are disappointed with Kenjaku's supposed end, and I put supposed end on there because I'm a Kenjaku coper myself, but one of the biggest issues that people have with that is Takaba was very, very necessary for Kenjaku's end, or at least that's what it seems like so far. Of course, Yuta Okkotsu came out and then Kenjaku's head was on the ground. And based on how that interaction goes, whether or not you think the feat is valid, then Takaba is extremely necessary. A lot of the community does seem to think that feat isn't valid on its own, because Takaba is necessary, blocking Kenjaku's perception, and all the stuff like that, maybe suppressing his curse energy. If you do think the feat's valid, this isn't as concrete, but since a majority of the community, at least from what I can see, from my very limited purview of the community, and my own introspection and analysis with polls I've done with you guys, it doesn't seem like a lot of people think that feat is valid. A lot of people blame Takaba for Kenjaku's easy loss. And a lot of people aren't happy about that, because Takaba, just like Higuruma, is a character who is under 100 chapters old. In our general purview, 100 chapters is probably about like 2.5 years, considering all the breaks that come in. So under 2 years old in terms of our purview. In terms of narrative weight, Takaba is kind of a nobody. And the same thing comes to Higuruma. Higuruma, ultimately, if he were to keep getting expanded on, if he were to start adding new applications of his technique through RCT, a third trial, extra abilities, a black flash, all this, we would kind of be dragging away more and more screen time from, admittedly, I hate to say it, more important characters. The main one obviously being Yuji Itadori, our main character. Obviously, you could argue Higuruma may have relative narrative weight to characters like Kusakabe, or, well, you could argue he has more, just considering how much he's done, but like characters like Kusakabe, characters like Ino, characters like Choso, you could argue relative narrative weight, but of course the main one is Yuji Itadori, the main one who's also tied directly into Higuruma. And that's another reason why I think Higuruma getting got here is fine. Gege didn't take the time to flesh out Higuruma beyond very basic interactions he has with some other characters. The only person that had any sort of remote connection to Higuruma are the two people he fought in 247. Fought with and fought alongside Yuji Itadori and Ryomen Sukuna. Those are the only two he's ever interacted with for more than maybe 3 panels. In terms of overall character weight, once again, due to how tiny it is relative to the grand scheme of the narrative, he doesn't have many connections, and ultimately him falling to Sukuna right here and now, and ultimately him working alongside and getting over his little character arc with Itadori still works out. And once again, we go back into the idea of narrative weight. If we bring Higuruma back, if he's even still alive and things start to work out, I don't think anyone would actually be happy. Even the greatest Sukuna haters this side of the Mississippi, I don't think they would be happy. Well, okay, I've seen some of the comments, so some people would be happy. But I know some people, myself included, would not be satisfied if Ryomen Sukuna, 20-finger Ryomen Sukuna, went out to the Executioner's Blade. Even with that one extra finger there, that I fully acknowledge and fully believe will be a relevant plot point, because there's no reason to not give Sukuna that final finger unless it's going to be a relevant plot point. I think we all agree that ultimately Higuruma dealing the final blow to 20 fingers of Ryomen Sukuna wouldn't just feel anticlimactic in a similar vein to, well, Kenjaku's end. It would also just kind of feel like a waste, not just of Higuruma's character. Well, not really. Higuruma would get the most almighty and amazing dub, and everyone would praise him to the heavens, especially all the Sukuna haters. But we would get robbed of 20-finger Sukuna showing off the full breadth of his abilities. Even with that final finger still being in play, whether that be leading to a one-finger incarnation of Sukuna, whether that have to do something to do with the merge, or whether anything comes with that final finger, or nothing comes with that at all, the loss of Ryomen Sukuna to Higuruma Hiromi for Higuruma's relative lack of weight, and how much that would rob from Yuji Itadori? I just don't see it. If Gojo Satoru was not allowed to execute Ryomen Sukuna, I highly, and I mean highly doubt, that Higuruma Hiromi was. If Kashimo Hajime, the person who was introduced in the same chapter with the same amount of prevalence as Higuruma Hiromi, was not allowed to execute Ryomen Sukuna, then I 100% believe that it would be nonsensical for Higuruma to. So, with that being the case, I honestly don't think Higuruma needed or deserved anymore. I think he's done his role. Ultimately, I think the saddest thing is, based on my own predictions on how this Executioner's Blade final wombo combo will go, with the power of Yuji Itadori fueled on by the desires of Higuruma, I think at best it may weaken Sukuna. Or, at worst, it will do nothing at all. This will admittedly have a backwards negative impact on Higuruma's legacy, because then Higuruma will end up joining a fan club of important Culling Games characters who accomplish nothing in the grand scheme of things and lose every single fight they're in. Though admittedly, Higuruma forfeited his fight against Yuji Itadori, but hey, still kind of a loss. Then he would have done nothing against Sukuna except remove a hand that is already healing. So that's the thing. Higuruma Hiromi, for his narrative weight, achieved everything he needed to do. He gave the characters the points to progress the plot. He gave Yuji further character development. Right now, he's giving Yuji even more further character development and character acceptance. And right now, he's acting as a last-ditch gamble in order to save all of Jujutsu. But, once again, for how minor of a character he is in the grand scheme of things, for how relatively unimportant he is as a character in the grand scheme of things, I think his fate is well met. A man who felt guilt for what he had done to a child, now knowing that he can leave everything behind with that same child and hopefully save the world. Unfortunately, I don't, and I see very other few people believe that Higuruma Hiromi's sacrifice will mean anything in the grand scheme of things outside of maybe, at best, some sort of nerf. But even with that, I say Higuruma Hiromi, despite all of his potential, despite his ability to possibly become the next Satoru Gojo, despite he who already, at the age of 36, yet 2 months young, stood parallel and alongside Ryomen Sukuna in terms of talent and Jujutsu understanding, I think he falls well, and I think ultimately his fate was well met, as any judges should be. However, that's what I think. Please let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you think Higuruma deserved more? Do you think he deserved less even? Do you guys not like that he got hype comparison to Satoru Gojo? Do you guys think he should have gotten more hype? Do you think he should have gotten more time? Please let me know all that and more in the comment section down below. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave sliced judge in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And please make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member to the channel by hitting the join button down below for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include the live reaction to the very next chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This would happen to be that guy with the pencil writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays, Red Wolf 4765, Greyhound, and Akid's Void. And I'd like to give another thank you to our $5 patrons, Victor, Sean, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, DemXLND, and Igneal. And I'd like to give a chunky old thank you to our $7 member, Autumn's Morning Lazo. And I'd like to give another chunka thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Joaquin, Idemokami, and China Doll 09. I'd like to give a hefty tractor thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. I'd like to give another giga gargantuan thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.